All right, this is Chat UTD. Let's start with Ruben Amorim's comments after the match yesterday, which has led some people to believe he's hinting at perhaps he might well leave the club, as in he would walk away from the club. So he said that the players spoke very loudly with their performance, very loudly, very clearly. He said that we can't change, something has to change, and we can't change 22 players. He said, I've been here 7 months and nothing changes. And he said, we have one more game and then we'll decide what we do, or something along those lines. All of those comments do point to perhaps a resignation, not that he's handing in his resignation, but a resignation in him that this just isn't going anywhere. You could read it a few different ways. Look, it must be really difficult when you've had the start that he's had to go out in front of the press every few days, and every few days probably have to say the same thing and nothing's changing. Now, this is a guy who's used to winning at Sporting Lisbon. He's not used to standing in front of the press, a foreign press to him, and trying to find reasons for, at times, unfathomably bad performances. And rightly he's emotional, and rightly he's angry, and I find him to be a really authentic, honest manager with great integrity. And that doesn't make him a great manager, but it makes him quite likeable, in that at least he's real, at least he's honest. He's quite flawed. He makes himself at times quite vulnerable, I think, with the things he says, but I'd rather have that than people just talking utter nonsense, which we've had when it's been close to the end for a manager previously. At least he's saying stuff we'd all agree with as fans. But as I touched on last night, it's inevitable that he's not going to be there that much longer, I think, because he has to start winning games, and I don't think that's going to happen. So if he doesn't start winning a significant amount of games, the board at some point will pull the plug, because they'll have to, or he'll walk away. I think in one way or another, if this doesn't change and start to get better, there will be a conclusion to this sooner rather than later, because he isn't the type to hang on for his own agenda and for his own need. As I said, he's got integrity, he's a winner, he's used to winning, and he's got too much pride, from what I can see, to continue to do this. And apparently, if we believe what we read, he's already offered his resignation twice at the end of last season. I don't know if that's true, but there's certainly stories out there from relatively reputable people that suggest that's what went on last year. So there will be a conclusion to this sooner rather than later. And again, people quite rightly might say that he's stubborn and he needs to be more adaptable, and that he needs to change his system. He said from minute one he's not going to change his system, so he's not going to change his system. So we can think he should, but he's not going to. We can say that he needs a midfield player and that he needs a goalkeeper. He might get that, he might not. His record is so poor in the time that he's been here. I did a video in the summer talking about the fact that United haven't had a managerial bounce since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The only bounce we've had in 5 years is when the Glazers announced they were going to leave, or hinted that they might leave. That's the best bounce we've had, which tells me everything I need to know. But even notwithstanding the fact that we've not had bounces from managers for quite some time, you'd think there'd be something, either when he first came in or at the start of this season, where some daylight starts to come through, where there's chinks of light and you think something's changing here, something's moving in the right direction. But realistically, there's nothing. The Arsenal game now, I think we can put down as another one-off game against a big team, and we know we can turn up and play all right in those games. We did that last season a few times. So that's nothing different to what happened last season. The Fulham game was tedious. We got an all right result, but it was a tedious game of football where I thought for large periods we were outplayed by a much better team. But Grimsby is on another level of embarrassment when they are outplaying Manchester United. We've got players, I'm told, that are still suited to playing counter-attacking football. And yet, I don't see teams that often sit back and defend against United. I see teams fancying their chances and coming at us. And by the time we get up the pitch to try and make a counter-attack happen, they've got all their players back. So Grimsby last night went after United. Grimsby, a League Two team, went after United, who supposedly have players who are good on the counter-attack and in transitions. And yet every time we got the ball forward, all their players were back, which points to what I said last night again, that we take far too long on the ball. Everything's robotic, everything's slow, everything is like, it's like you're watching a bunch of kids playing football who don't know the basics of the game, how to control the ball and move at the same time. It's get it, stop, have a look around, then make your decision. You don't get time to do that. And when you do that, if players let you do that, by the time you get up the other end of the pitch to try and make an attack happen, there's loads of players back. In the second half, you've got Mbumo on the pitch. I saw a collection of Mbumo's goals for Brentford last season. So many of them were on the counter-attack because Brentford at times were playing and getting 30% possession in games. And so many of his goals, there's hardly anyone else in the frame by the time he's through. He's through on goal with 30 yards of grass in front of him. That doesn't happen against United. When teams play against United, they don't give you that amount of space. But secondly, by the time we get the ball up to him, all the players are back. So I'm looking at, sorry to bring it back to the point, I'm looking for chinks of light, and I'm thinking last night is the opposite of chinks of light. It's doomsday. It's another, and again I've used this term, I think it was in the erosion of standards video. People talk about a nadir, like the low point. This is another nadir, another low point of United's recent history. But these nadirs are happening more and more frequently now. To the point it just becomes normal. That's the way we play. That's the way we are. And I think Amorim's a smart guy, and I think he knows this ain't going anywhere. There's, in some ways, it's right to back him. It's right to say, let's give him a bit more time, because I don't think he's wholly to blame for everything that's going on by any stretch of the imagination. And you almost have to tick the box of giving him more time because otherwise the time scale that you're giving managers is getting less and less and less, and it'll come to the point soon where it's almost like Italian football went through a stage where a manager would lose a few games and 2 or 3 weeks later, having been appointed 2 or 3 weeks ago, they'd be sacked. You don't want it to get like that. It's ridiculous. And you're giving off a vibe of you just really don't know what you're doing. However, so we're stuck because there is just an inevitability that he's going to leave, as I said, in the not too distant future. Either he'll walk or the club will sack him. So we're 2 games into a Premier League season, and I already know with strong conviction that this manager won't last the season. Or if he does, we're going to finish mid-table. Now, I thought when we finished 8th, I thought that's as low as it can get. It's so depressing. It's such a sad indictment of where Manchester United were and now where we are. It's not okay to finish 8th. It's like it's an absolute disaster. That was 15 months ago. And 15 months later, 8th has become the target for this season. 8th has become a desirable achievement when 15 months ago we thought we were at the bottom of the barrel. Just take in that context. 15 months ago we finished 8th, which was seen by the vast majority of United fans as an absolute disaster, and we won the FA Cup in that season as well. Fast forward 15 months and we would now be happy to finish in that position. The standards have dropped so low in the last year or so. It's quite alarming, really. And I thought Ten Hag should have been sacked after the FA Cup final. I said it on here. I said it before the FA Cup final. Whatever happens in the FA Cup final, I think he should go. He didn't, so they spent more money on him with more Erik Ten Hag-centric players, and then they sacked him and brought someone completely different in. But what I would say, and I didn't like. I thought Ten Hag did well in his first season. I didn't think he was any different to what Solskjaer did, really. He didn't put his own mark on it at all, but he got more out of the players. We finished third. We reached 2 cup finals, one of which we won. The performance against Barcelona in the Europa League is one of the best performances post-Ferguson. It was brilliant over the 2 legs. So he got a tune out of the players for one season. The second season, we finished 8th. It was absolutely tedious, and he didn't get much time in the third season. But in the third season, when he was sacked, and quite rightly he was sacked in what was it, the end of October. Things weren't that bad, believe it or not. If you look at the league table, and the steep drop off has come since Amorim's come in. Now that's down to he's got a completely different way of playing, and the players aren't up to it. But we can talk about systems till we're blue in the face, and he says this himself: football's football, and you've got to be able to get a tune out of players, and he can't. And the thing that really has turned the tide for me on Amorim, whilst I still genuinely like him, is that by all accounts he was the one that pushed for 2 number 10s this summer. Going into the summer, we had Bruno, Mount, Xerxes and Ahmad. All 4 of them 10s as their best position. You could argue Mainu could play there, but we've got at least 4. You've got 4 number 10s. He's added 2 more and not got rid of any of those 4. And he's trying to get those 4 into the team somewhere, whilst having 2 new number 10s who's going to play most weeks. It's a recipe for disaster. And I hear that United are much slicker in the transfer market now. They've learnt from previous mistakes. They are more common sense, they're more pragmatic, they're more this, they're more that, they're more the other. Bullshit. Because whoever made that decision needs to be held accountable for it. And if it's Ruben Amorim, then it's him that needs to be held accountable for it. Because at the start of the summer, I said, we need a new goalkeeper, a right wing back, 2 centre midfield players, a 10 and a striker. And I'm not a football expert, but there are people at that club being paid a lot of money who are supposedly the great brains of football, who are in charge of who we go for and who we try to get in the summer. Now, if you can't get 6 players, which we're never going to get 6 players, then you prioritise. And you I suppose what you probably do is say, right, we get 1 midfield player, 1 10, and 1 striker. Or a goalkeeper, a midfielder, and a striker, given that we've got 4 10s. But to get 2 number 10s and spunk 2/3 of the budget so far on a position where there was already 4 players is absolutely nonsensical. As much as I like the 2 players that have come in. And bringing this to some form of conclusion, look, I'm at the point now where it doesn't matter if Amorim stays. It doesn't matter if he gets sacked. Nothing's changing. You could put someone new in at the weekend. It wouldn't make any difference. I don't think it'd be a 1-game bounce anymore. Because whilst the manager is our problem, he's not the problem. And it used to be that a manager would get sacked and you'd go, oh well, something different could happen here. It's different manager, different ideas, different voice on the training ground. It used to be you'd say, well, Rashford's gone now, so that he was a really poor influence around the dressing room. I imagine he's a terrible attitude, blah blah blah. Sancho, they both gone now. Way back it was Pogba who I was insistent needed to leave. He's gone now. So players come and go through the door, managers come and go through the door, and absolutely nothing changes because I repeat what I said yesterday. The club is absolutely rotten to the core. And someone put a comment on my video last night, which I appreciate, sort of saying that they'd resign themselves to the fact that they have to be patient now and that it's going to be a long, long way back. And yeah, you're probably right. I'm not saying you're this person, by the way, but I'm fed up of pragmatists. I'm getting fed up of the Andy Mittens of this world. The people that consistently tell us, oh, behind the scenes there's a better atmosphere, that this is the happiest anyone's ever been in pre-season. There are things that are happening now behind the scenes that you can't see, whether it's a lot slicker operation than it used to be. I don't give a shit. Because I see with my eyes what is happening on the football pitch, which is where a football team is judged. And nothing is changing. And it hasn't been changing for the good for a long, long time. So we don't need pragmatism. We don't need patience. We need anarchy. Because we are looking at a club who for 20 years didn't finish outside of the top 3 in the Premier League. We were never particularly great in Europe, so I'm not going to include Champions League. We were never great in Europe under Ferguson, to be honest with you, but we were there or thereabouts most seasons. We were in the competition at least. But domestically, just looking at it like that, we never finished outside the top 3 for 20 years, and we won 13 out of 20 titles. And for 12 years, we have not been anywhere near a title race. Not close to a title, not even anywhere near a title race. The 2 seasons we finished second, it was a one-horse race all the way through the season, pretty much. So that in itself, at a big club, at a proper big club, would give rise to anarchy, would give rise to, at Real Madrid, the white hankies had come out. But we're not just talking about that. Man United finished 8th, followed by 15th. You can get upsets in a League Cup game. United got beat at home by Coventry when they were in League 2 or League 1 when Ferguson was in charge in the League Cup in the early rounds. The difference is that competition didn't matter then that much. Ferguson would play kids. Ferguson would prioritise Europe, prioritise the Premier League. It didn't matter, really. This competition this year is a serious competition that we need to be in, because we need to have something to look forward to outside of the Premier League. It's a chance to win a trophy, and it gives players time on the pitch. So the Coventry game we lost, God, it was probably about 15 years ago, something like that, was not on the back of finishing 8th, 15th, and all of the complete shit show of the last 12 years. And the blame, as always, as it always will be, is with the Glazers. Because they have created this. Everything you see now is as a result of them. The fish rots from the head. And what you see on the pitch is as a result of them. So, I repeat what I've said so many times before. Until they leave the club, and until we have brand new owners who have an intent to make Manchester United great again, and until the legacy damage of them is removed, this will carry on. So if you want to be patient with that, then you're a more patient person than I am, and good luck to you. But I'm of a mind, this isn't just because of Grimsby. Grimsby poked the beast in my case. But I've thought this for a long time. Get games called off, cause anarchy, cause trouble, do what you need to do, don't hurt people. But do what you need to do to get the message home that we want our club back. That doesn't mean winning every week. That doesn't mean winning the title every year. That doesn't mean the success we've had previously. It means operating like a proper football club with some class and without having to have our hands tied behind our back. It means going into the summer and saying, we need to rid ourselves of 10 players. It means going and doing that. So which means we need to bring in 6 or 7. It means being able to do that. That's not happening. And don't even get me started on what they're doing off the pitch and the way they're treating the fans and everything like that. That's separate. I could do a whole series of videos on that if you want me to. I'm talking about just on the pitch at the moment and the running of the squad and what we see game in, game out, week in, week out, competition in, competition out, season in, season out. The club's broken. And when I started to watch the game yesterday with my lad, can't quite describe the feeling. It was before they'd scored a goal. It was flat, it was apathetic, it was what's the point? Because nothing's going to change. There's no joy, there's no life, there's no soul, there's no purity to the football, there's no idea of how to structure a performance. It's absolutely well and truly broken. So Ruben Amorim, if he's got the integrity I think he's got, may well walk away. And do you know what? If he did, I'd applaud him. I'd say, good on you. And, well, would it make any difference? Well, at least, I suppose, and this is where I'm at the moment, at least it'll be a point of interest. At least there'll be something to talk about, won't it? Other than the shower of utter shit that we watch every week. It'll be let's speculate who the new manager's going to be. Let's debate whether he can do anything about it or not. But ultimately, we'll be back here again within however many months, because nothing's going to change, because nothing ever does change. The only way it would happen, where it changes, is if we stumble across, and it won't be through design, if we stumble across an absolute bona fide genius who is just absolute, is perfectly aligned with Manchester United. And I don't think that person exists, not when you've got all of the other things that are against you. So, that's my feelings on it. Always appreciate comments. Yeah, Glazers out.